Have you noticed your grocery bill creeping up, even though you're buying the same staples as always? The reality is, some everyday foods have seen jaw-dropping price hikes, leaving shoppers stunned at the checkout, and unfortunately, this trend shows no signs of slowing down. Right now, there are 10 common grocery items that have skyrocketed in cost, foods you likely buy every week without realizing how much more you're paying. These aren't fancy treats or luxury goods, they're the essentials that families rely on, and their rising prices are hitting budgets hard. Stick around until the end because when you see which items made the list, you'll understand why so many people are feeling the pinch. Some of these price jumps are so shocking, you might think twice before tossing them in your cart again. Don't miss this. Your wallet will thank you. The soaring cost of honey. Honey, long cherished as a natural sweetener and a symbol of health and tradition, has seen its price climb to staggering heights in recent years. Once a pantry staple for many households, honey is now becoming a luxury item, and the reasons behind this surge are as complex as they are concerning. One of the primary culprits is the alarming decline in global bee populations. Bees, essential pollinators for honey production, are facing threats from climate change, pesticide use, and habitat destruction. With fewer bees to pollinate flowers, honey production has taken a significant hit, leading to a reduced supply, and as basic economics dictates, when supply dwindles, prices inevitably rise. Adding to the issue is the growing problem of honey fraud. Many supermarket brands labeled as honey are often diluted with cheaper additives like corn syrup, making pure raw honey increasingly rare. As consumers become more informed and demand authentic, unadulterated honey, the cost of genuine products continues to climb. This demand for purity, coupled with the challenges of maintaining ethical and sustainable production, has driven prices even higher. The situation is further exacerbated by rising transportation and supply chain costs. The journey from hive to jar involves multiple steps, and with global shipping disruptions and soaring fuel prices, the cost of getting honey onto store shelves has skyrocketed. For families, this shift is particularly troubling. What was once a go-to ingredient for breakfast, tea, or home remedies is now a splurge for many households. As a result, some families are turning to cheaper sweeteners, while others are cutting back on honey altogether. But for those who value the health benefits and unique flavor of real honey, the price tag is becoming harder to swallow. The golden jar that once symbolized nature's sweetness now serves as a stark reminder of how even the simplest foods are slipping out of reach. 2. Pasta. From budget-friendly to budget-busting. Pasta, the ultimate comfort food and a longtime symbol of affordability, has undergone a surprising transformation. Once a reliable pantry staple for families, students, and anyone looking for a quick, inexpensive meal, pasta is now facing price hikes that are catching shoppers off guard. At the heart of this issue lies durum wheat, the key ingredient in pasta. This special variety of wheat has been hit hard by extreme weather conditions, including severe droughts in major growing regions like Europe and North America. These climate challenges have led to poor harvests, driving up the cost of wheat, and, by extension, pasta. The link between wheat prices and pasta costs is unbreakable, and as wheat becomes scarcer, the ripple effect is felt on grocery store shelves. But the story doesn't end there. Producing pasta is an energy-intensive process that involves milling, drying, and packaging. With global energy costs soaring, manufacturers are facing higher production expenses, which are inevitably passed on to consumers. Add to this the rising costs of shipping and logistics, and it's no wonder that even a simple box of spaghetti now feels like a splurge. What makes this trend particularly troubling is pasta's role as a staple for low-income families and budget-conscious shoppers. For decades, pasta has been a symbol of affordable, filling meals. It's the go-to option for students, families, and anyone looking to stretch their grocery budget. But now, many are being forced to rethink their meal plans as pasta prices climb higher and higher. The irony is hard to ignore. What was once the epitome of a cheap and satisfying meal is now another reminder of how inflation and supply chain issues are reshaping the way we eat. For many, pasta is no longer the budget-friendly option it once was, and the rising costs are leaving a bitter taste in shoppers' mouths. 3. Breakfast cereals, a pricey start to the day. Breakfast cereals, once the quintessential quick and affordable morning meal, are now becoming a financial strain for many families. The colorful boxes that line supermarket shelves may look the same, but their price tags tell a different story. Over the past few years, the cost of cereals has risen dramatically, leaving shoppers wondering what's behind the surge. One major factor is the rising cost of grains, the primary ingredient in most cereals. Extreme weather events and supply chain disruptions have driven up the price of wheat, corn, and other grains, creating a domino effect that impacts cereal production. But grain prices alone don't explain the full picture. Cereals are heavily processed and marketed products, and the costs of advertising, branding, and packaging all contribute to their higher price tags. Another significant driver is the global increase in sugar prices. Despite their healthy marketing, most cereals rely on sugar for flavor and preservation. As sugar becomes more expensive, the cost of producing cereals rises, and those increases are passed on to consumers. Families who once bought cereal in bulk are now finding it harder to justify the expense, especially as the cost per serving continues to climb. What's particularly shocking is that many cereals now cost more per pound than fresh fruits or meat. This shift is especially hard on parents, who have long relied on cereal as a quick, kid-friendly breakfast option. For decades, cereal has been marketed as the ultimate family breakfast, easy, convenient, and affordable. But now, many parents are being forced to explore alternatives as the cost of their go-to morning meal becomes unsustainable. The rising price of breakfast cereals is more than just a grocery store annoyance. It's a reflection of broader economic challenges. From supply chain disruptions to inflation, the factors driving up cereal prices are complex and far-reaching. For families trying to make ends meet, the once simple act of pouring a bowl of cereal is now a reminder of how even the most basic foods are becoming harder to afford. 4. Olive oil, liquid gold in the kitchen. Olive oil, once a kitchen staple for millions, is now becoming a luxury item that many households are struggling to afford. The dramatic price surge can be traced back to severe droughts and record-breaking heat waves in Spain and Italy, the two largest olive oil producers in the world. These extreme weather conditions have devastated olive harvests, leaving farmers with historically low yields. With supply shrinking and global demand remaining steady, or even increasing, the price of olive oil has skyrocketed. The situation is further complicated by transportation challenges and export restrictions. Countries that once exported vast quantities of olive oil are now holding back supplies to stabilize their local markets. This has created shortages in international supermarkets, forcing consumers to pay double or even triple the price they were accustomed to. For many families, olive oil is no longer just a cooking ingredient, it's a financial decision. Health-conscious shoppers are feeling the pinch the most. Olive oil has long been celebrated for its heart-healthy benefits and its central role in the Mediterranean diet. However, as prices soar, many are turning to cheaper alternatives like vegetable or sunflower oil, even though these options lack the same nutritional value. The shift is a painful one for those who prioritize health but can no longer justify the cost of olive oil. The reality is sobering. One of the healthiest natural fats is slipping out of reach for millions of families. What was once a pantry essential is now a symbol of how inflation and climate change are reshaping the way we eat. For those who still want to enjoy the benefits of olive oil, stocking up during sales or exploring smaller, local producers might be the only way to keep this liquid gold in their kitchens. 5. Instant soup. The rising cost of convenience. Instant soup has long been a go-to comfort food for people on a budget. Cheap, quick, and easy to prepare, it has been a staple for students, workers, and families looking for an affordable meal. But recently, the price of instant soup has been climbing in ways that are leaving even its most loyal fans surprised. The reasons behind this increase go beyond the cost of raw ingredients like wheat, salt, or dehydrated vegetable. Instant soup production relies heavily on packaging and global supply chains, both of which have been hit hard by rising costs. The price of plastics, paper, and other packaging materials has soared, and with transportation costs also climbing, manufacturers are facing higher production expenses. These costs are inevitably passed on to consumers, making even a simple packet of soup feel like a splurge. Another factor driving up prices is demand. During times of economic uncertainty, instant soups become incredibly popular due to their long shelf life and convenience. When millions of people stockpile these products, shelves empty quickly and prices rise even further. Manufacturers often take advantage of this surge in demand to increase their profit margins, leaving shoppers to pay more for the same product. The irony is hard to ignore. Instant soup, once a symbol of affordable comfort food, is now becoming less accessible to the very people who rely on it the most. For low-income families, students, and workers, the rising cost of instant soup is yet another reminder of how inflation is making even the simplest foods harder to afford. What was once a budget-friendly meal is now a financial burden, forcing many to rethink their choices in the grocery aisle. 6 nuts, a pricey snack for the health-conscious. Nuts have always been celebrated as a healthy snack, packed with protein, fiber, and heart-healthy fats. But in today's supermarkets, they're becoming one of the most expensive items on the shelves. Almonds, walnuts, cashews, and pistachios are all seeing price hikes that are shocking consumers at the checkout. The primary reason for this surge is climate change. Nut trees require significant amounts of water to thrive, and droughts in key growing regions like California and Spain have severely impacted harvests. With production down, the cost of nuts has risen dramatically, but the challenges don't stop there. Nuts are also incredibly labor-intensive to process. From harvesting and shelling to packaging and shipping, the supply chain for nuts is long and costly. As energy and transportation prices climb, these additional expenses are passed directly to consumers. Another factor driving up prices is the global nature of the nut industry. Many nuts are grown in one part of the world and exported to another, adding shipping costs to an already expensive product. The result is painfully high prices for what used to be an affordable and nutritious snack. The saddest part of this trend is its impact on families trying to maintain a healthy diet. Nuts are often recommended by nutritionists as a key part of a balanced diet, but their rising cost is forcing many people to cut back or switch to less nutritious alternatives. What was once a staple for heart health and wellness is now becoming a luxury item, leaving many without access to one of nature's best superfoods. For those who still want to enjoy the benefits of nuts, buying in bulk or seeking out local producers might be the only way to keep this healthy snack within reach. 7 vegetables. The rising cost of freshness. Vegetables, once the most affordable and essential part of any diet, are now becoming a financial strain for many families. A stroll through the produce aisle reveals price tags that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. The primary culprit behind this surge is the increasing frequency of extreme weather events. Droughts, floods, heat waves, and other climate-related disasters have wreaked havoc on farms worldwide, leading to smaller harvests and reduced supply. Staples like tomatoes, peppers, and lettuce, once considered everyday basics, are now priced like premium items. Transportation costs are another major factor driving up vegetable prices. Fresh produce is highly perishable, requiring quick shipping and temperature-controlled storage to maintain quality. With fuel prices soaring and logistics becoming more expensive, the cost of moving vegetables from farms to grocery stores has skyrocketed. These additional expenses are inevitably passed on to consumers, making fresh vegetables less accessible to many households. For families, this trend is particularly troubling. Vegetables are supposed to be the foundation of a healthy diet, providing essential nutrients and vitamins. However, as prices climb, many people are cutting back on fresh produce and turning to cheaper, processed alternatives. This shift not only impacts household budgets, but also has long-term health implications, as processed foods are often less nutritious. The rising cost of vegetables is a stark reminder of how inflation and climate change are reshaping even the most basic aspects of our lives. For those who still prioritize fresh produce, strategies like buying in-season vegetables, shopping at local farmers markets, or growing their own food may help offset some of the financial burden. But for many, the once simple act of filling their plates with fresh vegetables is becoming an increasingly difficult choice. 8. Cookies. A pricey indulgence. Cookies, often seen as a small, affordable indulgence, are now becoming a surprising source of sticker shock for shoppers. These sweet treats, made from a combination of flour, sugar, butter, eggs, and chocolate, are facing price hikes that reflect the rising cost of their ingredients. Each component has seen significant increases due to factors like poor harvests, supply chain disruptions, and inflation. When the cost of raw materials goes up, the final product inevitably becomes more expensive. But the story doesn't end with ingredients. The production of cookies is an energy-intensive process, requiring high amounts of electricity and gas for baking and mixing. With global energy prices on the rise, manufacturers are facing higher operational costs, which are then passed on to consumers. Add in the expenses of marketing, packaging, and distribution, and it's no wonder that even a basic pack of cookies now feels like a luxury item. What makes this trend particularly striking is the psychological impact. Cookies have long been marketed as an affordable comfort food, a small treat that families could enjoy without breaking the bank. But now, the rising prices are turning this simple pleasure into a financial decision. For many households, the cost of a pack of cookies is no longer an afterthought. It's a noticeable hit to the grocery budget. The irony is hard to ignore. Cookies, once a symbol of affordable indulgence, are now a reminder of how inflation is affecting even the smallest aspects of our lives. For those who still want to enjoy their favorite treats, baking at home or waiting for sales might be the only way to keep cookies on the menu. 9. Powdered milk. A staple under pressure. Powdered milk, long valued for its convenience and shelf life, is now becoming a financial burden for many families. Traditionally seen as a practical and affordable alternative to fresh milk, powdered milk has recently experienced price increases that are leaving shoppers stunned. The challenges facing the dairy industry are at the heart of this issue. Rising feed cost for cows, extreme weather events reducing milk production, and higher processing expenses are all contributing to the surge in prices. The production of powdered milk involves additional steps like dehydration and specialized packaging, which make it even more expensive than fresh milk. Transportation costs further exacerbate the problem. Powdered milk is often exported across the globe, making it highly vulnerable to fluctuations in shipping and fuel prices. With global supply chains under immense stress, shortages can appear quickly, driving prices even higher. For families, this trend is particularly concerning. Powdered milk is often a staple for households with children, as well as for those in regions where refrigeration is not always available. It's also a critical component of food aid and emergency supplies. As costs rise, accessibility shrinks, leaving the most vulnerable populations at risk. The rising price of powdered milk is a sobering reminder of how inflation is impacting even the most basic necessities. What was once considered a cheap and practical solution is now becoming financially out of reach for many. For those who rely on powdered milk, the challenge is not just about managing costs, it's about finding ways to adapt in an increasingly uncertain economic landscape. 10. Canned beans. The humble staple no more. Canned beans, long celebrated as one of the most affordable and nutritious protein sources, are now joining the list of grocery items with shocking price increases. These pantry staples, known for their versatility and long shelf life, are facing cost hikes that are catching shoppers off guard. The reasons behind this trend are multifaceted, starting with the rising cost of the beans themselves. Droughts and poor harvests in key growing regions have reduced supply, driving up prices. But the beans are only part of the equation. The cost of the cans they come in has also risen dramatically. Steel, aluminum, and other packaging materials are now significantly more expensive than they were just a few years ago. The production process for canned goods is another factor. Sterilization, storage, and long-distance shipping all require energy, and with fuel and electricity prices climbing, these costs are being passed on to consumers. The impact of these price increases is most acutely felt at the checkout. Families who once relied on canned beans as a cheap and nutritious option are now questioning whether they can still afford them. For many, the rising cost of canned beans is a clear symbol of how inflation is reshaping even the most basic aspects of our diet. The humble can of beans, once a symbol of thrift and survival, is now becoming a luxury for some households. For those who still want to keep this staple in their pantries, buying in bulk or exploring alternative sources like dried beans may offer some relief. But for many, the rising cost of canned beans is yet another reminder of how even the simplest foods are no longer immune to the pressures of a changing world. The rising cost of groceries is a stark reminder of how global challenges like climate change, supply chain disruptions, and inflation are reshaping our everyday lives. From pantry staples like pasta and canned beans, to indulgences like cookies and health-focused items like nuts and olive oil, no category seems immune to these price hikes. For families trying to make ends meet, these increases are more than just numbers on a receipt. They're a daily struggle to balance nutrition, affordability, and practicality. While some of these trends may stabilize over time, others are likely here to stay, making it more important than ever to plan ahead. Stocking up on non-perishable essentials, exploring local and seasonal options, and finding creative substitutes can help ease the burden. But the reality is clear: the way we shop, cook, and eat is changing, and adapting to these shifts is now a necessity. As you navigate these challenges, remember that knowledge is power. Being aware of which items are skyrocketing in price can help you make smarter choices and stretch your budget further. Stay informed, shop wisely, and don't forget to look for opportunities to support local producers and sustainable practices. Together, we can weather this storm and find ways to keep our kitchens stocked without breaking the bank.